Hello and welcome back to the channel. If you're a veteran navigating the VA disability claims process, this video might be the most important one you watch before your next C&P exam. Today I'm revealing things the VA doesn't want you to know, specifically words and phrases that can sabotage your disability rating, what examiners may really think when you say them, and exactly what you should say instead. I'll also show you how to spot money grab red flags and statements that can shoot you in the foot, even when your condition is real and serious. Get ready, because what you say and how you say it can make a huge difference in your claim. First, some quick context. A compensation and pension exam, or C&P exam, is a medical evaluation conducted by VA or a VA contracted examiner. Its purpose is not to treat you, but to document your condition and help determine your disability rating. Many veterans underestimate how much weight the examiner's impressions and report carry in the adjudication process. If you want more on general tips, see resources from VA Claims Insider, Hill and Ponton, etc. The biggest mistake many veterans make is assuming the examiner is on their side or already knows your full history. But examiners are trained to spot inconsistencies, exaggerations, or signs of malingering. In many cases, they're on the lookout for red flag statements that suggest you're inflating your symptoms for higher benefits. So let's break down what not to say, what the examiner might think, and what to say instead. 1. I'm fine, or I'm good. When asked how you are, what you might mean, I want to be polite, or I don't want to bother them with complaints. What the examiner thinks, if they say fine despite claiming symptoms, maybe they're exaggerating or it's not that bad. Why it's bad? One-word responses hide your real struggles. It signals minimal impairment or suggests you're minimizing your own condition. What to say instead? Be honest and specific. For example, thank you for asking. Lately, on a bad day, my back pain is so severe I can't get out of bed without assistance for 15 to 20 minutes. On better days, I can move, but stiffness persists. Or, I have good days and bad days. On bad days, the pain shoots down my leg, and I can't sit for more than 10 minutes. Always describe how your condition affects your life and your worst days, not just your average days. 2. I use this brace just for the exam. What you might mean, I want to show physical limitation now so I get a higher rating. What the examiner thinks? They're staging for the exam. That suggests exaggeration or malingering. Why it's bad? Examiners are trained to observe behavior from the moment you arrive, even in the parking lot, so inconsistencies are red flags. What to say instead? Use only what you legitimately use daily. If you sometimes use a brace, cane, or walker, say, on bad days, I need my cane to walk around 50 feet. On other days, I try without it, but with pain. Be consistent and natural in your movements throughout the appointment. Don't suddenly limp or hobble more than your usual baseline. 3. I can't work at all, without qualification or explanation. What you might mean, my condition makes full employment impossible. What the examiner thinks, absolute statements like this can undermine credibility if there's contradictory evidence, past work history, other statements, records. Could be seen as aiming for total disability. Why it's bad? The VA wants specific limitations, not blanket, sweeping claims without context. What to say instead? Be precise. For example, I can't sustain full days in jobs requiring standing, walking, or repetitive lifting. I can try sedentary tasks intermittently for an hour or two, but fatigue, pain, or cognitive issues prevent consistent full-duty work. Or, in past jobs requiring extended standing or heavy lifting, my condition forced me to stop within weeks due to flare-ups. You want limitations, not absolutes. 4. Everything affects me. I'm completely disabled in all respects. What you might mean, I need maximum support. There's no functional area unaffected. What the examiner thinks, overbroad claims raise suspicion. If you say everything is impacted, the examiner can assume exaggeration. Why it's bad? It sounds like a fishing expedition for the highest rating rather than a truthful disclosure. What to say instead? Be selective and realistic. Focus on key areas. Mobility, sleep, concentration, mood, social functioning, household tasks, employment. For each area, give concrete examples and metrics: frequency, duration, severity. For instance, my sleep is disrupted 3 to 4 nights a week, leaving me fatigued the next day. My concentration falters when doing paperwork. I make errors and need frequent breaks. 5. I'm going to go home and rest. That's how I cope. What you might mean: I need rest to recover from flare-ups. What the examiner thinks: that suggests self-imposed inactivity, which can be viewed as optional rather than necessary. Could be interpreted as malingering or avoidance rather than true impairment. Why it's bad: resting or avoiding activity can look like behavioral choices rather than medical necessity. What to say instead: frame it as a forced consequence of your condition, not a choice. For example, during flare-ups, I'm forced to rest lying down for several hours. My pain becomes so intense, I can't do even light chores or focus on anything. This rest is not optional, it's a necessity. Also, describe the functional impact before you rest. 6. I don't take medication or therapy, so maybe it's not that bad. What you might mean: I want to avoid unwanted stigma or get judged, or you may be non-compliant. What the examiner thinks: if you're not pursuing treatment, maybe the condition isn't severe or you're exaggerating. Why it's bad: treatment history, medications, and adherence or non-adherence are part of how the VA assesses credibility. If you present yourself as refusing care, it can hurt your case. What to say instead: explain fully. I am currently on medication, but it causes side effects like fatigue and nausea that limit how much I can use it. I've tried therapy physically, but the pain flares so much I often must pause. I'm actively trying to manage, but limitations remain. If you truly can't access treatment, explain the barriers: distance, financial, provider availability. That's better than silence or implying you don't care. 7. I don't want to exaggerate, so I'm underplaying it. What you might mean: I don't want to seem like I'm complaining or exaggerating. What the examiner thinks: underplaying can backfire. If you downplay your symptoms now, the examiner may assume they're not that severe. Why it's bad: your disability rating is based on how your symptoms really affect your life. If you understate them, your rating may be artificially low. What to say instead: be balanced but clear. I want to be honest and accurate. To clarify, on a bad day, my symptoms worsen significantly, even though on better days, I can function somewhat. I'll describe both, so the examiner sees the full range. Use objective terms: frequency, duration, intensity, to avoid sounding like you're overselling. 8. If you want, I can go to extremes for you to see. What you might mean: I'll show you my worst possible symptom so you understand. What the examiner thinks: that's a red flag for overacting or dramatization. It suggests you're putting on a show for ratings. Why it's bad: these performative offers undermine credibility. What to say instead: instead of performing, describe objectively. On flare days, my pain soars. I feel burning, pins and needles, and can't extend my leg. I'll describe how I feel at worst and show you typical range of motion. The focus should be on description, not dramatics. 9. I delayed seeking treatment because I couldn't afford it, because I didn't believe it was that bad. Unexplained gaps. What you might mean: I didn't go sooner for external reasons. What the examiner thinks: unexplained gaps in medical records or delays in seeking care can be used to question the legitimacy or severity of the condition. Why it's bad: the VA may interpret gaps as signs you weren't that sick or were exaggerating recently. What to say instead: offer explanations. I delayed treatment because the nearest specialist was 120 miles away, or I lacked insurance during that period, or I didn't realize how severe it would get. Once symptoms escalated, I sought care. Be prepared to back that up with records or documentation if possible. 10. I want this for more money. I need a higher rating. What you might mean: it's an understatement of what you believe you deserve.
What the examiner thinks: this is a direct red flag. They are motivated by compensation rather than disability. That undermines credibility. Why it's catastrophic: It sounds like you're treating the exam like a financial negotiation, not a medical truth-telling. What to say instead? Never express claims or motivations about money or rating. Focus entirely on the medical and functional impacts. Your motivation should sound like, I want an accurate rating that reflects my disability, not, I want the highest rating possible. Always anchor statements to daily life, functionality, and impairment, not compensation. 11. That symptom used to happen, but not lately. Without clarity. What you might mean, I've improved, so I don't emphasize past severity. What the examiner thinks. If you now deny prior symptoms, that conflicts with previous records or statements, raising doubt about consistency. Why it's bad. Consistency over time is key. Saying old symptoms used to happen but now they don't, without explanation, may look like you're downplaying now to inflate later or hide contradictions. What to say instead? Clarify with context. Yes, earlier I had daily migraine attacks. Now they are less frequent, but still occur weekly and last many hours. The improvement is marginal, and on bad weeks I still suffer as before. Show a trajectory, not a total flip. 12. I won't worry about exact numbers. I can't count hours or minutes. What you might mean. It's hard to quantify. What the examiner thinks. Vague, unquantified descriptions are less credible. They prefer measurable frequency, duration, severity, why it's bad. The VA loves metrics, how often, how severe, how long. Without them, your statements lack weight. What to say instead? Try to quantify as much as possible. Use ranges. I sleep 3 to 4 hours on average, wake up 3 to 4 times a night. My pain lasts 2 to 6 hours during a flare. My migraines hit 8 to 10 days per month. If you can't be precise, at least give estimates and explain the uncertainty. Some days I lose track, but typically... 13. I'm going to exaggerate a little so it matches records. What you might mean, I need to match what was previously documented. What the examiner thinks. Acknowledging exaggeration is admission of overstatement. That is a huge red flag, why it's fatal. You don't want to admit or hint that you might exaggerate. What to say instead, emphasize honesty. I want to stick with my real experience and be truthful. I'll relate the worst, average, and best days honestly, and let the examiner decide how that fits the rating criteria. 14. I'll just tell you what the doctor/specialist said, and you fill out the rest. What you might mean. You assume the examiner can translate your medical record. What the examiner thinks. They might rely too heavily on records, bypassing patient testimony. That suggests passivity or over-reliance on hearsay. Why it's bad. Examiners may skip probing your personal testimony if you act passive, which can lead to underreporting of your symptoms. What to say instead? Be active. I do want to refer to my medical records, but I also want to personally walk you through how my condition actually limits me day to day. You want the examiner to hear your voice and see your perspective in real time. Throughout your exam, always keep these underlying principles in mind. Consistency, your exam testimony, medical records, and prior statements should align. Detail, use examples, numbers, metrics, and concrete incidents. Context, speak to functional limitations. Work, social, household, not just symptoms. Authenticity, don't try to game the system, but don't understate your struggles either. Non-confrontational posture, don't argue, don't debate, remain respectful but firm in describing your lived reality. One more thing, red flag money grab statements like, I'm here to get what's owed to me, or I need more money for my family, can kill credibility immediately. The examiner doesn't want to hear you're motivated by compensation. Your focus must always be on impairment, not reward. Let me give you a brief sample monologue you could adapt. On my worst days, I can barely lift my arm above my shoulder because the pain radiates down to my elbow and the numbness lasts for hours. I often drop objects. I can't cook or drive more than 15 minutes. When asked about work, I say, I tried sitting work, but fatigue and nerve pain forced me to stop. I don't avoid activity because I'm lazy. I avoid it because I physically can't sustain it. Sometimes I rest on the couch for 2 to 3 hours until I can move again. These are not choices. They are consequences of my condition. That kind of language is neutral, honest, descriptive, and tied to function. In closing, remember, the C&P exam is not a negotiation or performance. It's a medical assessment. What you say matters wildly. Avoid red flag statements, avoid vagueness, avoid absolutes, and most of all be consistent, genuine, and descriptive. If this video helps even one veteran get a fairer rating, it's worth it. Call to action. If you found this video helpful, please hit like, share it with other veterans who are preparing for a C&P exam, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future content about navigating VA claims, appeals, and benefits. Drop a comment below. Tell me one phrase you'll change next time you go into an exam. Stay strong.